This episode of Life Trippin is called The Good Enough Trip. And it's about having a sense of not just what our ideal lives might look like, but how to be happier by recognizing what might be good enough for you. It's part of a series that invites you to examine and realign your values as a way to make significant positive change in your life. Now, for those who are watching instead of just listening, this is a brand new thing for me. I've been converting my Life Trippin episodes into podcasts for a while now with the help of my friend Emanuele Caruso, but not with really any video content other than just some slides, kind of for cover slides. So this is my first real video for Life Trippin and for my Sutton Coaching YouTube channel. If you like it, would you like it on YouTube, subscribe to the channel, maybe mention it to your friends? I confess it's still a bit weird for me. I mean, it's one thing to hear your own voice, which always sounds different coming out of speakers, and another entirely to see yourself. Facial expressions, stuff I probably do every day when talking to people that I'm totally unconscious of doing. I know, for example, that I'm a hand talker and that I have a pretty expressive face. Now, of course, I'm thinking of a Seinfeld episode where Judge Reinhold is the close talker who gets right in everyone's personal space. Now, Life Trippin might get in your personal space a little bit, but hopefully in a much less annoying way. And if not, you can always just push pause or move on to something else. Just not yet, okay? This episode is going to sound counterintuitive, which in this case is kind of an evasive way of saying that I'm probably going to contradict a lot of what I've said before, and maybe even my own tagline about helping you make the most of your life trip. As I've been doing this series on values and talking about a kind of values realignment process, I've come to realize that there is a kind of missing link for many people when it comes to happiness. Yes, knowing your values is crucial. If you aren't clear about what's really most important to you, there are all kinds of things you might experience. A lot of trouble making big decisions because you don't know what things to give the most weight to. A lot of inner and maybe even outer frustration at being stuck. And maybe a sense of wandering aimlessly into and out of various relationships, jobs, even big plans for your life. But I'm also increasingly coming to appreciate the value of enough. I've used the concept lots of times with clients when we've been creating goals and plans, and I realize that many of us get stuck somewhere between ideal, the need to challenge and push ourselves, and okay, self-acceptance and self-esteem. When our happiness is dependent only on the ideal, that's a pretty narrow space. There's not much room for mistakes or failures or even grace. I can imagine that there are lots of coaches, gurus, productivity experts who, if they actually watched or listened to this, would right now be running for their torches or maybe pitchforks, or perhaps just a different podcast. Because they're all about the push, the challenge, the achievement, the performance, about reaching your potential. And for some people, that effort, that continual striving, that cycle of success and failure and success, it works. And they find happiness in that process. Others, though, and you'll know who you are, and I'm one of you, experience anxiety, sadness, self-focused anger, even paralysis, because no matter how well they do, no matter how much they improve, how high they reach, the goal, the target, always moves just a bit higher. So they never have the sense of really succeeding, of doing, or more importantly, being enough. And if you don't feel like you are enough, how likely is it that you could ever do enough? Now, if you consider what might be enough money, enough time, enough affection, achievements, friendships, what comes to mind for you? I know. It's an odd question. I mean, who can have too much money or too many friends? It's not just counterintuitive, it's kind of countercultural. I mean, to the extent that we live in a consumer society where we're given value based on the concept of more. Always more. Be more, do more, buy more, achieve more. But how much is more? At what point can you look at your sort of internal records and say, okay, that's about the right amount of more. No more for me, please. Well, you can't, at least not without the concept of enough. If you don't know what's enough for you, you'll always be singing the Rolling Stones, I can't get no satisfaction. Now, if I could have pulled off the Mick Jagger thing right there, don't you think I would have done? Here's another way to look at the concept of enough. Theologian Walter Brueggemann suggested that we live either in a world or a mindset of scarcity, where no matter how much we have, there's never enough to go around. And so we spend our time, our energy, trying to get more money, more time, more whatever. Or we live in a world, in a mindset of abundance, where no matter how little we have, there's always enough to go around, to share, to provide for our needs. A Sheryl Crow song from years ago said, it's not having what you want, it's wanting what you have. That's an abundance mindset. So if that concept feels at all inviting to you, how might you cultivate an abundance mindset? How might you explore the potential of enough? Well, I've got some questions for you to consider, and I suggest that you ask yourself these questions at least daily for at least a week. I mean, it's an experiment, right? What do you have to lose? A couple of times a day is even better, maybe in the morning right after you get up, and at night right before you go to bed. If you do this kind of thing with your smartphone, you can even set reminders, each one with a different one of the questions so that they pop up throughout the day. Whatever you think might work for you. So here are the questions. Number 1, how might my life, my sense of clarity, and my sense of self-esteem be different if I was much more clear about what is enough for me? Question number 2, what would need to happen in order for me to gain that kind of clarity? Question number 3, what are some thoughts or feelings that discourage me from asking or answering the question of what is enough? And lastly, question number 4, what kinds of support do I want in discovering and claiming my enoughness? My significant other, friends, family members, a counselor, or a coach? And in light of that, if it makes sense to you to try coaching for that support, why not give me a shout? I'm happy to do a completely free coaching session with you, absolutely no strings attached. And I promise I don't make a big push to get folks to commit to anything. My coaching speaks for itself, and I can guarantee that after a session, you will know whether it's right for you or not. So that's it for this episode of Life Trippin', this first Life Trippin' video. Please like it, if you did, on YouTube, iTunes, or wherever you found it, and contact me for a free coaching session so you can see how this stuff really works. And trust me, it really works. And be sure and check out my new 4-week Values Realignment process or anything else about me and my podcast at my website, www.lifetrippin.com. I want to help you make the most of your life trip. No, wait, check that. I want to help you have a good enough life trip. So until next time, keep on trippin'.